Welcome to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast. And you're very welcome back to the Hawkeye Sidekick Rugby Union podcast. Joined again this week by Liam O'Brien. Liam, how are things?
Mighty, Mark. Really good now.
Very good. Took the week off due to work commitments, but we're back with a bang this week anyway. We'll review the first round of the Champions Cup and also Challenge Cup games this weekend, ladies and gentlemen. I suppose, Liam, let's start from the start. I suppose last Sunday, Toulouse triumphant, 18-13. What was your reaction to that performance from Munster?
Yeah, it was fairly Baltic, and in the second half, it was a struggle to actually see there in the pitch. That's for sure. I think a lot of people come away actually quite happy with the performance, even though it was a defeat. It was a close defeat. Certainly in the first half, we gave as good as we got. Toulouse, I think, just their power told in the end, and they were a bit more savvy. But put in perspective, there probably Leinster, La Rochelle, Sarries and them, Toulouse are the top teams in the competition, and you're at a different level again. And at least we're kind of aiming to get there, and we just need to be a bit more learning as we go, and how to maybe want to control our game.
Yeah, I'd agree, Liam. Last time we spoke, it was before the Edinburgh Rugby game. Pretty much a season-defining performance from Munster Rugby on that occasion, securing the bonus point in Edinburgh. So there had been a good upturn in form. 3 wins in a row, if you want to consider the South African 15 game as a form guide. But again, this is kind of different levels, as you say here. Toulouse are a magnificent side, a complete juggernaut when it comes to European Cup rugby. Look at the personnel that they had on duties. But in fairness to Munster, these are the games where you evaluate yourself in terms of where you are, and weaknesses will get exposed. I suppose we can go through them in due course here, Dean. But I mean, it was a great start for Munster. I mean, tried to get on the front foot, and I mean, some very promising passages of play here. Nice cohesion in terms of 3 quarters, culminating with the try from Joey Carberry after about 9 minutes.
Yeah, it did. But I suppose if we just go back a bit, I felt we had a very good first half. We actually won an early scrum, which led to a penalty that Joey, I think, ticked off the post. And again, that kind of thing goes anywhere, But the try, it was a smashing try, I must say. Good carries. Again, Coombs to me was very prominent. Pretty much almost laid it on a plate, for whoever was coming after to go over. Yeah, so that was a good try for Joey, and a good start, 7-0.
Absolutely, I thought in the build-up as well, Shane Daly, Niall Scannell, there's some super carries there leading up to that try, and some good quick ruck ball as well. But I suppose one of the lessons here from Munster Rugby's perspective, and Graham Rowntree was probably quick to point that out in the post-game interview with RTE, was access to Munster's 22. And it didn't take long for Toulouse to gain access to Munster's 22, and by God, Liam, did they make that count with the try for Levitt. It was, I thought, a very nice move, and particularly Thomas Ramos was very instrumental in that try.
Ramos between he's in the line and his goal kicking and everything was immense all day. But yeah, it was a really, really class try. Brilliant move. You had Ntamak going out the back, Capuzzo, Ramos, and absolutely magnificent pass from Ramos, and he went over. Yeah, Lebel, that was a tremendous try.
Yeah, tremendous try. And I mean, look at the lead up before Ramos gets the ball. Toulouse again, their maul were kind of showing signs of kind of strength here. And I mean, they had a free play off after Munster infringing in the maul. So I mean, all told, didn't need the officiating advantage from Mr. Ridley. But again, DuPont, I thought, was absolutely magnificent during the contest here, making that trademark break around the fringes. And only for a Calvin Nash last-ditch tackle, Munster could have been down a bit immediately afterwards.
Yeah, exactly. There you go with DuPont quickly around the ruck there, and he found Ramos again. He was there all day. I suppose Ramos the pass was just not accurate enough, really, and we survived that passage of play.
The next lesson learned from Munster is when to play and when not to play. And I mean, there's a few occasions here where Munster Rugby maybe overplayed a bit in their own half, and no better side than Toulouse to compete, particularly around the breakdown area, to create penalty opportunities. And so it proved on 29 minutes when Jean Klein was penalised for not releasing. And Ramos, we know the calibre of Tomas Ramos in terms of his kicking, and it was never in doubt in 29 minutes to put Toulouse 10-7 in front.
And again, a really, really good kick, like, you know what I mean? That stage was getting foggy at that stage as well, like, you know. And also the conversion before that was just the most ridiculously good kick, you know, for the conversion. But yeah, and then, I mean, I suppose then really from Toulouse, you've probably felt from then on that Toulouse were kind of in a driving seat.
Indeed, but credit to Munster. We've said in this podcast repeatedly this season, the resilience is there within the playing group, and they continue to play most of the rugby here, Liam. Again, we're knocking on Toulouse's try line. I mean, wasn't maybe any real significant kind of try scoring opportunities, but really asking the questions, asking Toulouse for commit defensive sets here, and really culminated in a breakdown penalty for Toulouse, which Joey Carberry slotted over on 38 minutes, and I suppose fully deserved given the few minutes prior where Munster were probing for that elusive gain line break.
Yeah, as I said, we kind of there was a few penalties that kind of went against us there in that last, I suppose, 10 minutes in that half there. But we were better in attack, all right, that's for sure. I think it's just that at the breakdown, Toulouse's was just, the defensive line was just packed. Big lads, right, in the line. So chronologically, we couldn't really make much headway ourselves.
Yeah, certainly I think Toulouse, after the first 20 minutes, did make adjustments and then actually adjust to the officiating style of Mr. Ridley as well. Maybe much to the consternation of a few Munster supporters in Thomond Park. From where I was looking at it, it was kind of some of the supporters were getting a little bit infuriated. But again, all credit to Toulouse. They were showing their experience, they were showing their nous really to adjust their game plan, and really the offside kind of was really kind of on that borderline. But given the officiating, basically the high line speed here, I think Munster's attacking play got stifled pretty much after minute 30 here. And I think, in all honesty here, Liam, maybe it's a lesson learned for Munster in terms of in-game management within the squad and within the players here, to kind of evolve game plans as we go through a game.
Yeah, well, it's like, it's more a case of like watching the ref and see what the ref is letting you get away with. And Toulouse were certainly happy to be like on the bordering offside for the rest of the game there. And that's how you play the ref in a sense.
So it was 10-all at half time, Liam. Very kind of both teams giving as good as they got. Physicality well up there. And I suppose expectation level, within Thomond Park and home support here, Liam, was Munster making a steady start to the third quarter, but quite the opposite happened. Pretty loose pass in midfield, really creating Toulouse with more great attacking platform here. Antoine Frisch kicking the ball out for a 5-metre line out, and we'd already seen the signs from Toulouse's front five, particularly that maul was going to be an attacking weapon, and kind of so it proved with Lucas Talzin scoring in the right corner.
Yeah, and he only on the pitch, wasn't he? He only done 2 or 3 minutes on the pitch.
Yeah, I think he was on very short, yeah.
But it's like Dupont's pass, just incredible, you know. I mean, he literally, obviously, he made that, like, you know. I mean, obviously, you had Marchand peel off the back of them all. I felt if it was anyone else there but Bar Dupont, they may have fecked up that try. But no, he had the perfect pop get pass to Towson to go over.
He's an incredible scrum half, though, isn't he, Liam? Just as a game management general there. He makes the right moves at the right time. When it needs to go defensive, when it needs to go aerial, he'll do that. But particularly when he's packed around the front foot like that, making sure and executing to a high level that Toulouse were getting out of here with a try. I thought it was a sensational pass, as you said, and Lucas Talzin scoring. And again, Liam, like, I was watching it on television, and to be fair, the fog was just getting thicker and thicker and thicker as the game wore on. I know you being in the West Terrace here.
Yeah, again, so we were looking down at the other end of the pitch, literally. In the second half, and certainly, if we were talking about people getting penalties, like, Like, no chance. Like, for Munster getting a penalty, it would be just like literally, just toss a coin, like, because you wouldn't know where you were hitting it. But anyway.
Toulouse at this stage, pretty much we're saying, right, going to play percentage football here. And really we're bombarding Munster pretty much with high balls, aerial balls, competing, and really looking to kind of create that kind of game line around Munster's territory, really forcing Munster to really attack from deep. I suppose Munster did have opportunities here, Liam. None more so when Mike Haley was taken out in the air. And I mean, Mike Haley was very impressive during the game. I think 124 metres, was at 14 carries, along with Calvin Nash. Also Shane Daly, back three wise, looked very prominent. But again, Rory Scannell hitting a lovely penalty into the corner. And again, another lesson learned. It's that precision, that clinical nature. When you have a team under the pump, you need to put points on the board. And again, Munster kind of letting off Toulouse at a critical time here. It's very disappointing in terms of how that set piece went.
Yeah, and as I said, we did have in those, I suppose, crucial minutes there after half time. I mean, look, realistically, any other day, would a TMO have gotten involved? Would it have been like a yellow card for Haley's been taken out there? Yeah, you'd be saying yes, absolutely you would. I suppose, look, Frisch, he kind of fecked up a bit of a pass there, when we got good momentum as well. But look, we went to the corner, but we just we didn't get anything out of it when Joey kicked it.
Yeah, again, I just think cohesion against these teams is key. I suppose the good news for Munster was they actually did create opportunities in that third and fourth quarter to score additional tries. But again, it's that execution that was kind of key. But again, I think Toulouse were kind of winning the physical battles here at this stage. So it's probably, I don't know if it being touch harsh here, but I think that's a lesson learned here. If Munster want to get to the top table, those sort of opportunities have to be executed a bit better. I suppose Tomas Ramos again. What was your reading of this penalty? Jack O'Donoghue essentially kind of running from deep, and again was deemed to have held on by Ridley. I mean, Ridley, the referee, seemed to not be hanging around in terms of breakdown decisions. He seemed to be fairly quick on the draw on a few of these penalties, and so it proved for Toulouse to go 18-10 up.
Jack O'Donoghue, he did kind of get himself isolated on a number of occasions, it has to be said, in the game, taking it on too much himself. Yeah, it was the key decision, wasn't it, really, He was isolated in front of his own post too, which is worse. It's like, of all things, like, give me 3 points, give me 3 points,
It's just that composure again, isn't it? That decision making in the heat of battle. I think, video analysis probably is picking that a little bit. I think our breakdown work at times left a bit to be desired. But again, if ball carrier is going alone, vulnerable, isolated, referee already has his perceptions already painted here in terms of Toulouse winning some turnover ball, particularly in that third quarter. And so it proved there with Jack O'Donoghue being deemed to have held on. So, I mean, Ramos wasn't missing all day. And I mean, the conditions, as we said here, were pretty treacherous for kickers in terms of looking even at the post here. So he made it 18-10 for Toulouse. So again, Munster kept on trying to kind of get that elusive gain line break and winning the penalty on 75 minutes, which Joey Carberry duly converted to make a one-score game again. But again,
and the losing bonus point as well, I suppose. Yeah, it was up there as well for grabs. Yeah,
which I think, Liam, we'd agree, it could be huge come the end of this championship.
Oh, look, we've seen Mark, we've seen it so often. Some of the only times we've ever lost in Thome Park, really, a lot of it has been we've kicked to the corner when we had 2 or 3 penalty. You know what I mean, penalties, and so we were happy, I think, that they did take it at least.
Exactly, it could have been very bravado-esque to kind of go, but I suppose you have to hit percentages this time of year in this competition. As you say, a point here or there could be decisive in making the last 16 or not. So I think from a Munster perspective, given how Toulouse had performed, particularly in their pack, I think it was a smart call for Carberry to slot the 3 points over. And I suppose then we came to the crescendo here, Liam. Antoine Dupont got man of the match, but he did get sin bin for a deliberate knock-on. So I suppose these Toulouse colleagues won't be thanking him too much there. There was about 3-4 minutes there where they had to defend, but again, Munster, another lesson learned. Again, not really securing primary possession here, Liam. It all seemed a bit incohesive. and maybe a smell of panic in terms of maybe the attacking plays here.
I mean, I thought that was like a 3-on-1 overlap. It wasn't even a 2-on-1. It was a 3-on-1 overlap. I think we were away, basically. I think we were gone. That's another big decision, I suppose. What else would have happened? I'm not sure what else could have happened, but I mean, it's certainly his yellow card seemed very, I suppose, it was cynical, but they also, Munster didn't get any, extra long penalty out of it or anything like that.
Toulouse soaking up the tackles here. I mean, they made 155 tackles to Munster Rugby's 89 during the 80 minutes, which kind of tells you the tail of the tape in terms of even possession and territory. We're all from Munster. Munster 57% possession, 53% territory. So again, the turnover count here is probably the key one from a video analysis perspective. Liam, Munster had 15 turnovers versus Toulouse's 7. And again, from that perspective, I felt this game was very much cup rugby-esque after the 10 minutes. Again, very much tit for tat. So it's those accuracy, it's those kind of lessons learned in terms of giving away kind of poor penalties. They will be punished by the big teams, and so it proved here, and was probably the decisive reason why Munster were 18-13 losers here.
Yeah, look, I mean, we were times there we just coughed up possession too easily as well. Again, probably they were just Toulouse were just in our faces and just not gonna go away. Yeah, you look back at it and you say, could we have won? The reality is probably didn't deserve to win. Toulouse just have that sort of that game management and that ability that the great teams, I guess, have to just do enough to go at the crucial time for the breakdowns and to get over the line, basically.
Exactly, Liam. Look at the closers that are coming in for Toulouse. Like Cyril Bailly, Timo Flamand. Jack Willis, I thought, was superb when he came in. Was rather key in terms of few turnovers, and also just his breakdown work was outstanding. I mean, you've guys of that caliber coming in. It's from a Munster perspective, this is where, maybe squad depth is kind of maybe being exposed a little bit. But again, when you have seasoned professionals like this coming in, it kind of really kind of does focus minds here in terms of the squad profile at the moment here, Liam. We've got a lot of kind of young, talented players in here. And again, it's just going to take time. It's going to take time for a few of these younger players to really bed in. I mean, if you think about it, it was Craig Casey's first Champions Cup appearance starting. So, I mean, that's a rather big baptism of fire when you're up against Antoine Dupont, So I think from that perspective, an awful lot of positives here from Munster. But again, once Munster travel to Toulouse, they're going to have to be much better here, Liam. They're not going to get that territory or possession, particularly in Toulouse. So I think a few of the lessons learned here need to be applied pretty quickly in that fixture after Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, I mean, as you point out there, the young players were very prominent, but it's really some of the old, more senior players that you would have been looking in that game to close things out. That didn't really happen either.
I thought Toulouse did a magnificent job, particularly on Tyburn, particularly in the breakdown. I definitely sense that Toulouse really did focus on that in the lead up, like Tyburn being a massive weapon for Munster in terms of that breakdown battle. Again, Gavin Coombs had a prominent game throughout, but I mean, again, that first quarter was very prominent, but it's just that Toulouse really did make key adjustments at the right time. So I think from Munster's perspective, there is, ultimately the loss is disappointing, but there are some positives to take in. But again, it is a reality check for everyone concerned with Munster Rugby that the upturn in form in recent weeks has been pleasing. But again, this side are nowhere near, the level required really to kind of get over the top of teams like Toulouse. And I mean, that's probably a harsh statement, but I think this is the reality of where Munster Rugby want to go. So I think from that perspective, it is a good learning curve, and hopefully the lessons will be learned. Liam, just in terms of Munster Rugby, as we record this podcast, there's been a number of contract extensions and confirmation of a departure here in the Munster Rugby playing squad. Munster Rugby delighted to announce that Andrew Conway, Jack Crowley and Jack O'Donoghue are signing new 2-year contract extensions that will see them remain at the province until June 2025. Your reaction?
Delighted for the three guys to get their contracts, but I mean, in all the cases, it does lead to almost to more questions, really. Like in the case of Andrew Conway, well, we hope to see Mr. Conway back because he hasn't played since last June. So you'd be confident that at least Munster giving a 3-year contract to him means, that he should be back in good nick. Jack Crowley, again, excellent that he's got himself long-term future secured. That will, I suppose, by extension mean that Ben Healy will be gone at the end of the season as well. And Jack O'Donoghue gets a contract. And again, maybe if I can say this, I would have liked Jack to maybe have went to pastures new and kind of see how he would have gotten on in somewhere else.
Indeed, Liam. I suppose my reaction to Andrew Conway is, look, is probably reward for a real kind of servant to the ball club. His 10th season with the province here, Liam, so that can't be underestimated. Some great memories, some great performance from Andrew Conway, and hopefully he gets back from this knee injury. I mean, it's been a pretty serious one since June, so again, hopefully, and it adds to the depth chart as well. I suppose you're kind of thinking long-term in terms of Lysa Keith Earls here, in terms of his long-term future with the ball club here as well. It'll be interesting just to see, some of the senior personnel. So maybe it's there for an insurance policy for experience and back cover here. Because, Conway can fill in all the back three positions. So no issues there. Jack Crowley, for me, will be the fascinating one. He signed until June 2025. So that is a big, big statement from RFU and Munster Rugby that Jack Crowley is going to be a long-term ever present in this team. I saw his cameo at 12. I don't see him as a 12 or 15 here. I do see him at a 10 at the halfback. So what does that imply here to the likes of Joey Carberry, particularly? I would agree with you in terms of Ben Healy. I think that is kind of signalling maybe a bit of a transitional period for Ben, and I don't think there's any fault on the player. I think it's just a case of the player pool. I think decisions have been made here in terms of squad depth chart, and I think Healy's probably below Jack Crowley and Carby at the moment. As for Jack O'Donoghue, look, he's been ever present here, Liam. I think he's probably been one of the players of the season for Munster Rugby so far. I would kind of say longevity-wise, would there be a possibility of Jack Donoghue maybe going to be a second row? Just in terms of our back row depth chart, there's competition for place is going to be huge. And I think just given cover issues at the moment, maybe it's maybe an idea in terms of Jack Donoghue. Look, he has the physicality, everything to play a bit of a Ty Byrne kind of role that he can go second row, he can go back row. Maybe it's something there to explore. But delighted for Jack O'Donoghue, ever present, Liam, being in the academy, the one ball club man, and maybe he's just happy to be in Munster Rugby as well. Maybe he's not looking anywhere else, but he's 28 now. Another few years. He's kind of looking at end of career with Munster. So magnificent servant again. So it's great to tie down these guys. And I suppose we can't forget there also was an important ending to that Munster press release. And our fan favourite, John Ryan, is departing the province at the end of January. I suppose, what is your reaction to that, Liam?
Yeah, it's a pity for Munster Rugby, I suppose, that he's been let go. But I can understand the whole awkwardness of the situation for him coming back in the first place. I think it was probably this time last year, it was literally before Christmas, just before the Christmas fixture against Leinster, that he was basically told that he was no longer required for going forward for Munster. And then, of course, it worked that he was coming back this season when Wasps unfortunately went into administration, and he was looking for a club, and Munster at the time had a few injuries, tight head, so it was kind of beneficial to both, I guess. But I think we did say at the time that in terms of some sort of security, that he should have got at least into the end of the current season.
That was probably that's the key point. This was very short term. And I'd say, given the relationship between the player and the ball club, particularly the lead up to last Christmas and the decision not to offer a contract period to John Ryan, I think this was a business, arrangement, I would say, from player. Player had to get game minutes, keep himself ticking over. And I certainly think from a Munster Rugby perspective, they were in a serious bind in terms of tight head prop squad depth. So I think for the two parties, this has worked out in terms of the last few months. He departs at the end of January. You should know a hell of a lot in terms of what Munster are going to do in terms of the URC, but also in terms of Champions Cup, where there is playoff rugby coming to Thomond Park potentially in the last 16. So I think John Ryan, he owes nothing to the jersey. He did play his 50th European cap for Munster. Again, didn't let the side down. I think it's just disappointing here. Just the business side of this, the extension to John Ryan, I would have seen as probably a no-brainer, but obviously not close to the situation. So I think for John Ryan, there's links to Waikato Chiefs in New Zealand. Let's see what confirms there. But I mean, again, the press release saying that the province offered John a contract extension. But again, from a player perspective, he has to look at his long-term future with his family. And again, if another club comes calling with a better long-term deal, I think to me that is suggesting that maybe business was afoot here before even Munster even approached John Ryan in terms of making a contract extension. So I think it's disappointing, and it puts more pressure onto the tight head prop squad depth again, Liam. And again, it's a kind of another kind of area here for Graham Rowntree to really kind of reinforce, definitely in some new season signings next season.
You'd often wonder who is making all these signings and making all these contract decisions, because it's not just John Ryan. There are other guys who, I suppose, let's be honest, are kind of seem to be out long-term injuries as well. But I mean, the thing with John Ryan is, I mean, this is a guy, he's in the top 3 tight heads in Ireland. Simple as that, like, you know. We still have in our depth chart at tight head, you know, we've guys injured. I mean, we've young, experienced guys, and we have Stephen Archer again, who's probably going to be gone at the end of the season as himself. So I mean, it's kind of worrying in such a crucial position that locks the scrum, that we've kind of left ourselves open again.
It feels we're very vulnerable. I think Stephen Archer will be doing very well to come back even for April, May, if I'm being brutally honest. So it puts more pressure on the guys in the tight head prop position after end of January. So I just wonder here, is there another short-term signing or something there that can be arranged from a Munster Rugby perspective? Because I think the depth chart here could be pretty much exhausted here come March for Munster Rugby, given attrition of the roles. So I think it's a huge concern here, Liam. No point sugarcoating it, but I think Graham Rowntree and the management have to be identifying tight head prop as being maybe a key area to literally evaluate and see if any new players can come in to really enhance that position, because I think it has been a troublesome area at the start of the season.
I've never really understood, Mark, why even not ourselves, but any other European teams, you know, you're talking tight head props.
Yeah.
I mean, the most obvious place to go would be somewhere like Georgia, you know. I mean, or Russia, and get some kind of enormous tight head prop that you could come in and mold even, you know. That you know, you don't have to be going out and spending $1 million on a tight head. There are guys like around like that.
I think that's where your scouting network comes in, Liam. And maybe is this maybe an issue here for Munster Rugby, particularly identifying tight head prop talent, even beyond Ireland, looking, as you say, into European and even Americas here to a certain extent. So I think that is kind of going to be a key area of improvement for Munster, really. I think identifying some kind of front row depth chart here, certainly going into next season. But I suppose we wish John Ryan all the best anyway. It's sad to hear that he's departing the province at the end of January. And I suppose really and truly, just given the career-wise, it's probably a farewell for John Ryan, really. I wouldn't expect him back in Munster jersey post-January. So all the best to John. Both Munster's next opponents are Northampton Saints here, Liam, in Franklin Gardens. In terms of the Heineken Champions Cup last weekend, went to the reigning European champions, La Rochelle, and got absolutely thumped 46-12, 32-0 down at half time. Bonus point for La Rochelle already in the bag by that stage. I suppose from head coach Dowson's perspective, demanding more from the players was the immediate aftermath. But I mean, Liam, from a Munster Rugby perspective, this is a team that surely can be got at.
The fact that, you know, it's so tight now in the European games that if you start with 0 points, if you get no points whatsoever in your opening fixture, you are really then playing catch up for the rest of the time, big time. I think, if we look at Northampton, honestly, I think we'd be happy if all the English teams, I think they probably are the weakest by far. We'll have to be aiming to get wins home and away against Northampton.
I would agree with you there. They're sitting kind of middle of the table at the moment in the Gallagher Premiership. Again, 4 wins to their name this season in the Gallagher Premiership. I think from that perspective, the form hasn't really kind of set alight per se. But I think the manner of the result here was kind of pretty shocking to head coach Phil Dawson. I mean, an absolute legend of the game for Northampton. And again, he said they were 40 minutes late. But that doesn't really kind of indicate anything here. I mean, from a Northampton perspective, I suppose the only good news that I can say is they welcome back Courtney Laws for the first time in 2 months off the bench in the second half. So you'd imagine that Courtney Laws will be playing against Munster on Sunday afternoon in Franklin Gardens. But I mean, it was pretty routine stuff for La Rochelle here. Like Brice Doolan, Pierre Bougaret, again, Gregory Aldred charging down a clearance to score a 5th try. It really was fairly routine stuff here for La Rochelle. Again, Northampton providing little in the way of resistance here.
Look, I suppose La Rochelle again, you talk about, they've made a big statement for the opening weekend that they're going to be there defending their title, and they made a statement. I guess we can say that Leinster also made a massive statement as well. Those are the sort of teams that are going to be up at the top of European rugby for the next season or two, anyway.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think it will be interesting from a Munster Rugby perspective to see the team selection. I know team news is there's been no new injury concerns for Graham Rowntree and the management to contend with post that Toulouse 18-13 loss. So I suppose we'll be seeing maybe some cohesion or familiarity in terms of that 23-man squad. And I suppose from Northampton Saints, what do you do if you're Phil Dawson? Do you give these players another opportunity to impress, or do you run the changes? So, I mean, you are looking down through that side. There's a few guys there like Alex Waller. You see Ludlam there, who's featured for England. I mean, you throw in the likes of Hill, Fernbank as well has had England appearances. So, I mean, it is a talented side. And, I mean, they showed last season against Ulster that they're well capable of producing some stunning rugby when the game opens up. So, I mean, from a Munster perspective, it's probably that fine balance in terms of when to basically create the expansive game and when not to. So I think from that perspective, it could be a fascinating clash here in Franklin's Gardens on Sunday.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing I'd say about Northampton, if I can remember rightly. Last season, they had some cracking games against Ulster.
Yeah.
As well. So they are a team that really like to open you up with their rugby. And Franklin's Gardens is still, a tough enough place to go. And as I said, if they have their talisman, as ours is, would be like the likes of O'Mahony or Byrne, their talisman is certainly Courtney Laws. And I mean, quite frankly, if he isn't playing, there's definitely a big percentage drop in their performance as well. But they're a proud club, Mad Rugby Town. So home fixture, they're going to be up for it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, European Cup Rugby is probably on the line here for Northampton Saints very quickly. This Sunday, no result here. You can count goodbye in terms of Champions Cup, and you would even argue here Challenge Cup as well to a certain degree. Munster should be coming in here with a little bit of confidence given that Toulouse game. Again, lessons will have to be learned, obviously, but I think it's an intriguing game here, Liam. Two sides that are probably kind of looking to kind of find their level and kind of move up to the higher pecking order this season. It could be a key result for either team leading into the festive period. So it'll be an interesting game in Franklin Gardens on Sunday. I suppose kind of departing from that first round of Champions Cup and maybe Challenge Cup for that matter, what other games maybe caught your eye here, Liam, a little bit last weekend?
Well, just in terms of results, you'd have to say probably the most impressive of all is Exeter going away to Cast, denying them any points whatsoever. That was probably, in some respects, the performance of the round. I also thought Edinburgh did quite well, 30-26 lost to Saracens, and they were pretty much in it for most of the game. So that's also stands out as well. And in terms of just end-to-end stuff, probably that 39-31 win for the Sharks against Harlequins stood out like an actual performance-wise.
I know Antoine Dupont really wasn't too complimentary in terms of South African teams entering into the competition. But to be fair, Liam, these fixtures, particularly in December, particularly in South Africa, heading into the summer in South Africa, are going to throw a different dynamic to this competition. And I think it's required. So I definitely agree with you there. I thought Sharks Harlequins is an absolutely magnificent fixture. I think Harlequins were very unlucky not to come away with anything, truth be told. I can't wait for that return fixture in the Stoop after Christmas. I suppose you have to laud Leinster Rugby. You given the travel chaos that ensued in that Leinster logistics team on Friday to get the team over to Le Havre, I think it was a magnificent performance. Now, Racing 92, their discipline was completely off the charts. But take nothing away from Leinster. I thought that was a superb 42-10 win against a team on paper that looked like one of the top teams in European Cup Rugby.
Yeah, but again, I mean, if we could just start with this, why was the fixture played in Le Havre? Because it was a concert booked for the stadium. Like, I mean,
money.
You know, yeah, but the thing is, I mean, you're giving away such a massive opportunity. You know, Racing, your opening European Cup game, to go somewhere that really, you know, you've no absolute association with whatsoever. That'd be like Munster going to, I don't know, Westport or somewhere, you know, to play a fixture. It's just, you'd have to question the club of Racing for doing such a thing and for in the first place. But in terms then of the performance, it was an excellent performance from Leinster. I mean, Racing were never in that and scored 6 excellent tries. Van der Fleer, very prominent. Sheehan, such power. Gibson Park. On his day, he's almost unplayable. His passes. I mean, there was one massive pass there. I think it was like not just a cutout pass, it was like for Sheehan's try. He cut out about 6 players with that one pass, that loop pass. It was incredible, yeah.
I think in terms of the physicality, how they approached the game, many other teams in their situation, particularly on the travel arrangements, could have really lowered their performance. But I think this Leinster Rugby outfit are just, their mental mindset is just absolutely sensational. And I think from a Leinster Rugby perspective, I thought massive kudos goes to their pack. Last season we talked about Jason Jenkins and, you know, the injury woes that he had. And you're seeing the Jason Jenkins here of true note here. I mean, massive shift put in for 55 minutes against Racing 92, along with his colleagues James Ryan. Again, front row, I thought front five wise were completely dominant. And then I think for Gibson Park, you know, it must have been a joy to actually play, you know, behind that pack because Racing were literally in 6s and 7s, they had 2 sin bins. And I thought just the clinical nature from Leinster to really punish Racing 92 when they're down to 14 players was rather key, and they never let up. Particularly, I know Christian Wade scoring that late try for Racing 92 after a good pass from Finn Russell. But that was the only real involvement you saw of Finn Russell. But then Leinster come down the other end of the pitch and Josh van der Fleer completes the route with that 6th try. And I think Ross Byrne as well at 10. Liam, he's sending a massive statement to Andy Farrell and the Irish management. If you want an assured number 10 backup to Johnny Sexton, I think look no further than Ross Byrne in these last few weeks.
Yeah, you do wonder at times about him. Should he be higher up the pecking order? Because he's he's a guy who has done quite well, but he's also in the Leinster system. Like he's basically the backup to Johnny Sexton, and he can play very effectively the Leinster game when he's called upon. So he certainly is one to, I suppose, like, you know, I mean, really after Johnny Sexton, really and truthfully, it's like, who's the second choice, and that's still up in the air. So he should still definitely be one of the options.
I think it's very much a live option at the moment, given injury concerns to Kieran Frawley. I think Ross Byrne is going to get a bit of game minutes over the festive period as well, particularly against Munster and Ulster. So I think from that perspective, it should be quite a promising few weeks for Ross Byrne here to get himself back onto that international setup. I suppose from my perspective, I was stunned watching Ulster Rugby play Sale Sharks. Now, there's a case study here. Leinster Rugby and Ulster Rugby had travel issues getting to their venues away. and where one basically took that travel issue and literally went for it and delivered a performance. I thought Ulster Rugby, after the week before and that collapse against Leinster Rugby, again, it just looked as if it hadn't recovered, and Sale Sharks winning with first phase possession for a few of the tries. This was a horror show from Ulster Rugby from start to finish. A home tie against La Rochelle next. I think Dan McFarlane and the Ulster Rugby squad are suddenly under massive pressure.
Yeah, and the thing was, funny enough too, I suppose it was the manner of the defeat was surprising, because they always going away to say it was going to be, I suppose, tough enough. But 39-0 is like capitulation, really. There's no other way of saying it, and it is a disgrace to your club. Unfortunately, as we said, Ulster, they kind of are the nearly men. They have arguably more talent than Connacht and Munster available. They can pretty much go out and buy whatever Springbok they wasted their name. You'd have to question for the rest of the season now, because of all the fixtures to play La Rochelle, I know they're playing them at home, but play La Rochelle. If you don't win that, your season is all up. Again, to lose to get 19 points, to lose that lead, and to come away without even a bonus point loss away to Leinster, I think it's a mental thing. There's no the quality of players there, the physicality of the players that Ulster have is immense. It's definitely mentally in the club. There's something not quite there, that they just can't get over the line. They're nowhere near winning anything this season.
No, I think the week before was just a massive letdown in the context of their season. They had Leinster where they needed them at half time. Cian Healy getting sent off. Everything was leading to an Ulster Rugby win in RDS, but it was just the manner of it, Liam. In terms of the pack, Leinster galvanised, really on the front foot, and really, who are the leaders in this Ulster Rugby side? That, I think, is going to be the key challenge this week if you're Dan McFarlane. Who are the leaders on and off the pitch here for this Ulster Rugby setup? Because to be perfectly honest, we saw nothing in terms of Ulster as an attacking force here. 139 metres gained for the whole 80 minutes, team, versus 517 for Sale Sharks. And to be perfectly fair, some of the tries that were conceded, I think if you were under 12, I think you'd be given a few words from your coach with some of the missed tackles and just a complete misreads, for a few of these first phase possession tries. Come on. This is Champions Cup here, and I don't know here, Liam. I think there's massive question marks in terms of management and what was happening in terms of the Ulster squad the week leading up to this game, because Sale Sharks, second in the Gallagher Premiership, Alex Sanderson is doing an incredible job at Sale Sharks. And I think, to be brutally honest here, Liam, the mental preparation here, I think, is a massive issue here for Ulster. And the performance then followed suit. So I think for Dan McFarlane as well, there's maybe questions to answer here.
Yeah, and the thing is too, again, we said, if you get nothing from your first game, you're in big trouble in Europe. And confidence, I suppose, too, that's the key thing, isn't it? Really, yeah, too. Confidence can be shot to pieces on the back of performances like that. Going to this weekend, you always would have said before, Ulster Friday night, Ulster back all the way, but they'll be nervous. La Rochelle would be sniffing that, and they'll be sniffing a victory. No better man than Rog to engineer another, this was famous victory for La Rochelle.
The only thing here is, Liam, from an Ulster Rugby perspective, they can't get any worse. And I felt so sorry for any Ulster Rugby fans that made the travel chaos to get to the game and to see that performance. The only way is up here for Ulster Rugby. They have to respond in some shape or form. Now, La Rochelle coming to Kingspan, it's a season-defining game. It's a bit like Northampton Saints. They don't win this game, I think good luck and thanks is when it comes to Champions Cup, because I don't know if Ulster are getting a result in La Rochelle after Christmas. So I think it's imperative for Ulster to get a performance, get the home support on side here, and then they can maybe evaluate a result or a win at that stage. It was just so lackluster in so many aspects here, Liam, that it can only improve here from an Ulster perspective. And you're leading into a very competitive aggressive, festive period. They have Connacht on the 23rd, who are progressively improving, and they had a very convincing win against Newcastle Falcons here in the sports ground last weekend. Who are going into a bit of form, and also they have Munster, which to me, for those two provinces, is going to be a make or break game for next year. So I think from that perspective here, Liam, the tide has to be arrested a little bit here from an Ulster Rugby perspective, but it's nothing easy going to be handed out, particularly with La Rochelle in town.
Yeah, and again, I mean, I said it already, in the podcast today. I think Ulster have better players than Munster, right? On paper, But I mean, it must be so frustrating to be an Ulster supporter for him to always kind of have some of those crazy sort of performances during the season. But look, they have to get something, backs to the wall. They have to win.
You would hope that the relevant conversations were had at the start of this week leading up to that La Rochelle game, because everyone has to be on the same page. Everyone has to be on the same hymn sheet in terms of getting a performance right. I thought pack-wise, it was a pretty disastrous performance. When you've seen the likes of Vermeulen getting sin bin for that, I mean, I thought on paper Ulster's pack kind of complemented fairly well to what Sale Sharks would provide. But again, Sale Sharks have shown here, Liam, that they have an appetite for Heineken Champions Cup. They had a few notable wins last season, and they continue in the same vein in the Gallagher Premiership this season. And as I said, I really do respect Alex Sanderson as a head coach here, a very ambitious head coach, and I think the players are really buying into this. And I mean, when you have the likes of Tom Curry there in the forefront here, I think it's good things are happening in Sale Sharks, but we'll see the true Sale Sharks here because they have to travel to Toulouse this weekend, which I think is probably one of the best ties of the round here. And I suppose maybe we can get to that here, Liam, in terms of round 2 of the Champions Cup. Looking at it, on Friday night, we have Bordeaux Beglays against Sharks and Leinster entertaining Gloucester. I suppose, who do you fancy in those two games?
Interesting, isn't it? I mean, I don't think Leinster have played Gloucester too often in the European Cup. So you'd have to say Leinster at home. Bonus point win. Kind of handy enough against Gloucester. I would say too that it's a Friday night in France. Again, though, I think as that Sharks have a good opportunity to come away with something here. We come away with a victory, and I tipped them to slightly get over the line, like 4 or 5 points.
I think it's going to be interesting here just to see the form line, because Gloucester played Bordeaux Beglays in Kingsholm last weekend. Gloucester triumphing 22-17. So Bordeaux Beglays securing that loser bonus point, which is so coveted, particularly in the opening round. Now, they do play the South Sea Sharks here, who did basically have a superb win last week. Now, I suppose against Harlequins, I suppose the key question here is the turnaround time, the travel, the logistics here for South Sea Sharks. But I mean, if this is going to be a packed battle, this is going to be a phenomenal battle here. I'd probably just edge this to Bordeaux Beglays just marginally. I think the Sharks are going to learn valuable lessons here in terms of European Cup competition, particularly in France on a Friday evening. I think it's a different kind of level element in terms of the competition. I think maybe Bordeaux Beglays here by maybe less than 7 points. But I suppose Leinster, Gloucester here, I do really fear for Gloucester in terms of that performance of Bordeaux Beglays. I just thought that there was an awful lot of areas here that Gloucester really need to tighten up on, particularly defensively. And I think Leinster here, coming after that win against Racing 92, will be well buoyed here. And I think nothing short of maybe a comprehensive win here. I'm thinking maybe Leinster by 20 or 30 here, to be truthfully honest. And again, there's rumours that Johnny Sexton may be starting here. And again, you're having that to kind of contend with from a Gloucester perspective. I mean, I don't know where Gloucester kind of go from it to kind of win this match. I think they just have to compete and just hope for that Leinster have an off night, but that doesn't typically happen too often. Saturday, we have Exeter Chiefs against the Bulls. My God, that's a crazy game down in Sandy Park. Edinburgh playing Cast. We have Lyon Saracens. Leicester against Clermont Auvergne, who are no strangers to each other. Ulster La Rochelle. Stormers London Irish. We have Montpellier Ospreys, and we also have Toulouse and Sale Sharks. I suppose we'll start with Exeter and Bulls. God, that'll be a packed battle to beat the band, won't it?
Yeah. There'll be nothing going beyond 10 there. I can
I'll tell you
that
what.
much. Yeah, the other guys may as well just like go into the stand, like, you know, and watch it on. I thought that Exeter, you know, was a standout performance there last week, and at Sandy Park, definitely would think that Exeter can do the business against the Bulls. Potentially, the Bulls might get the loose and bonus point win. I would say that much. But yeah, Exeter definitely to get 4 points.
I think Exeter Chiefs have set their stall out. I think they really want to have a real go at the Champions Cup this season. The Gallagher Premiership form has been a little bit indifferent, but again, they've games to kind of pull that back. But I think definitely this is a competition that really whets the imagination and appetite of Exeter Chiefs fans and also management and players. So it was great to see Jack Noel, Stuart Hogg. I mean, they were in full flow there, particularly in that second half against Cast. And all credit to Exeter Chiefs. I mean, that Cast pack is always fundamentally very strong and very robust. But I thought Exeter Chiefs played that absolutely beautifully. I think Bulls, on the other hand, it could be interesting. I mean, they had a classic 42-36 win over Lyon. But again, the fact of the matter is they're going to give scoring opportunities away to Exeter. I think Exeter will win. Bulls' best chance here is maybe getting a kind of a bonus point, 4 tries, but I don't see it out. I think Exeter win by 10-14. Edinburgh Cass.
Yeah, I mean, look, I was very impressed with Edinburgh away to Saracens. They kind of butchered a few opportunities. They should have actually won that game in the end. Cast, if they lose, they're pretty much out. I think that they're going to be the first team that's going to be all but eliminated after 2 sets of games. I think Edinburgh at home, they certainly away against Saracens. They fronted up far more and they improved from where they were against Munster, and I think that improvement will continue. So Edinburgh to win by 10.
I think from a Cast perspective, they're traditionally known for putting on an awful lot of fringe squad players out on the road against Edinburgh, a very cold Edinburgh at that. I think Cast team selection is dictating to me that Edinburgh should win this game. I think Edinburgh's objective here is to get a bonus point try win. Not always easy against Cast, but if they can get an early foothold in the game, they did show against Munster Rugby, particularly in the first 10-20 minutes. They're well capable of creating line breaks, so hopefully a good start from Edinburgh. I think Cast really have no interest in this competition if they do lose against Edinburgh, and I think that's great news for Edinburgh and Exeter Chiefs going into after Christmas as well, that there could be potential 5 points there for the Chiefs and also Edinburgh Rugby. So yeah, Edinburgh for me by 15 points in a bonus point win, hopefully. Lyon Saracens, again, this looks a very tasty fixture, particularly if Lyon do field a fairly strong lineup, which I think will happen given that South African trip last weekend.
Lyon, I think it's going to be kind of a high enough scoring game, and it's going to be absolutely almost nothing in it in the end. I think Lyon will kick their way and maul their way to victory against Saracens. So I'm thinking 3 or 4 points to beat Saracens.
Lyon at home, this is definitely one where they may really try to prove a point to Saracens. Yeah, I would think that the pack battle is going to be phenomenal here, particularly. Saracens disappointed me a little bit against Edinburgh Rugby. I thought Edinburgh left that behind them last weekend to a certain degree. I think Edinburgh's video analysis will be one of regret because they definitely did control an awful lot of exchanges during that match. I mean, it was a narrow loss to Saracens, but I mean, Saracens know that they have to improve this probably twofold to really get a result against Lyon. I would go with you here, Liam. French sides at home are always a tough proposition. I think a marginal 2-3 point win here for Lyon. Leicester Tigers against Clermont Auvergne, no strangers to each other after last season. Are we fancying Leicester here to beat Clermont?
So these two are always sort of really cracking games between each other, I have to say. But yeah, I would have to say the Tigers to get the victory against Clermont. Again, I think both sides will score 4 tries. So I think that they'll get bonus points for that. I think Leicester will just about get maybe the 7 point win against Clermont.
Clermont had a good opening win against the Stormers, 24-14, which is probably a marquee result given Clermont's performances in Europe in recent years. But I suppose you're looking at this fixture a little bit. I mean, Leicester Tigers, particularly Welford Road, are pretty much a different animal. And I think, to be perfectly fair, they struggled against the Ospreys last weekend. got the 6-point win, 23-17. Leicester beating the Ospreys last Sunday. I suspect Steve Borwick and the Leicester Tigers team, particularly with all this talk of Steve Borwick taking over as England coach, I think this will basically resonate with both management and also players to really produce a coherent performance. I'm thinking here 14, 15 points here for Leicester Tigers. I think this is probably a bonus point win here for Leicester here. Ulster La Rochelle, we've kind of talked about it a little bit at length here during the podcast. Do you see any hope for Ulster against La Rochelle at home?
Oh yeah, of course you do. Yeah, you'd have to. I mean, put it this way: for Irish sides to go to France, and the toughness, how tough to get is there, you would also nearly have to say the toughest, away fixtures for the French sides is arguably coming to Ireland, the Irish fixtures. I think Ulster have to improve. I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to getting, scoring 4 or 5 tries and getting the bonus point win that way. But I think it'll be something on the lines of 23, 13 or 14. So I think Ulster can actually prevent La Rochelle getting a losing bonus point.
I think this is intriguingly balanced. I think La Rochelle coming in high on confidence, to be honest, not really getting a serious game off Northampton, versus Ulster being blanked by Sale Sharks. So I think from an Ulster perspective, they have to really stand up and fight here to a certain extent. And I mean, get the performance right first, and then result comes second. So I think this will be tough for both teams, I think. But I think particularly for Ulster, particularly for La Rochelle, make a very fast start here. I'm going to tip La Rochelle here. I'm just thinking that there's so much confidence issues here. When your head coach is even admitting that there's confidence issues, that's, to me, you have to protect your players. And the fact that he's come out and admitted that is a serious concern, I would say. If I was a player for Ulster Rugby, you have to deflect all that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I hope Ulster win, but I just don't see it at the moment. I think La Rochelle will get the job done, probably 3-6 points. And, I mean, that really, this could be very season defining for Ulster. Stormers, London Irish could be a bit of a tri-fest here, I think.
Yeah, tied around. Definitely what I'd be looking at. You could be arguing, you have the Stormers, the most exciting URC side, and Irish, who are always traditionally the most exciting, up there with Quins, to be fair, as the most exciting English sides. So yeah, it is going to be high scoring for sure. They'll both easily get the bonus points. I think you're looking at maybe 35-30 for Stormers over Irish.
I'd agree with you there. I think there'll be plenty of line breaks. Get the popcorn out. I think that's probably the key game here. I think if you're looking for excitement and expansive rugby, I think this is the one that ticks all the boxes. But I think from a Stormers perspective, disappointing against Clermont-Auvergne, but I suppose learning a lesson in terms of European Cup rugby, and particularly facing a French side away, it's a very difficult proposition. So I think an awful lot of lessons have been learned here by the Stormers. But again, coming back to home in South Africa, I think this will be it'll be a good tie. I think definitely tries here. I'd probably go 5-8 points for the Stormers. 8 p.m. Montpellier against the Ospreys. Ospreys pretty competitive against Leicester Tigers. Do we see any chance for the Ospreys putting up an upset against Montpellier?
Not really, is there? You couldn't back, like before, you couldn't back against certain teams. Now you can't back for the Welsh regions at all, with the honourable exception of the Dragons, who had a good performance against the Lions in Johannesburg. They also had a good win at Montpellier. They had a 6-point win away in London Irish. There was a guy there, of course, Zach Mercer, got 2 tries. Probably of all the English players abroad, he'd be the guy I'd be kind of saying, the folly of not being able in World Cup year to pick a few of your players based abroad. Definitely. He's an outstanding player. I think Montpellier will easily win by 20-25 points.
Yeah, likewise. Hopefully Ospreys do produce a performance very similar to Leicester Tigers. Now, Montpellier at home, that packed platform, that physicality, it's there for everyone to see. So hopefully Ospreys will be competitive, but I can't see anything other than a bonus point win here from Montpellier, and probably I'd say the 10-15 kind of point spread is probably going to be achieved there. We then have a Sunday, 2 games on tap. First one is Toulouse against Sale Sharks, and given Sale Sharks' dominant performance against Ulster Rugby and Toulouse winning at Thomond Park, this looks like one of the intriguing ties of the round.
Yeah, very tasty, isn't it? It's going to be very tasty indeed. Sale Sharks, certainly the access is very funny with the brothers, the three Dupree's brothers' access. They always telepathic nature. Certainly is coming in handy these days as well. And as you said, a very up and coming coach. Yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very intriguing game. I would still probably say Toulouse to get the victory. I think that they will probably score 4 tries, but I also think that same thing for Sale Sharks. So I think in the end, an 8-point victory for Toulouse.
Form lines will be well and truly defined after this game, Liam. Just shows, we were kind of critical in terms of maybe Toulouse's attacking play, that they had Munster at arm's length, but maybe is there more genuine concern here from a Toulouse perspective with ball on hand? So I think Sale Sharks will be very competitive, particularly in the breakdown. You have Tom Curry there. Two priests have been absolutely superb this season for Sale Sharks. And as I said, under a very ambitious head coach in Alex Anderson, they will not be fearing going to Toulouse here. They've gone to various other grounds in the last season or two and produced very keynote performances. I recall Sale Sharks having a good performance against Clermont-Auvergne. I know the result didn't go their way, but they were certainly not overawed by Clermont-Auvergne away. So I think similar here. I think this would be maybe closer than most people expect here. I think maybe to lose by 5 points here, because I think there's something about the Sale Sharks team this year. The young profile of the team, an ambitious head coach, they're a progressive team, second in the Gallagher Premiership. I think they'll give this a right go, but I think to lose, I think your Antamax, your DuPonts at key stages, and Ramos will definitely secure the win here for Toulouse and keep them in a great position going into Christmas. And I suppose the final game here is Northampton Saints against Munster Rugby. Evenly poised, I would say, Liam.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we can go with real confidence next Sunday for the victory. We still have areas to improve for sure, but we have a backline functioning now as well. Joey was certainly more up to speed in the game there that weekend, and we always have a ferocious breakdown and back row. And, we always have the option too of going to the wall. So you have those attacking options. I think we'll just about have enough for Northampton in the second half. I think we'll win by 6 points.
Do you think a bonus point here, Liam, or just 4?
I wouldn't imagine bonus point, but certainly 4 points, yeah.
I just think Munster, this is a delicate fixture for them. I think it's going to be unforced errors and turnovers here that could be, have to be counteracted here a little bit from Munster Rugby. So hopefully the lessons have been learned from that Toulouse game. Northampton are coming in, and Liam, they will be they're a proud rugby club, proud rugby town. They will be looking to bounce back in front of their home crowd. So Munster do need to be on guard here a little bit, that there will be a little bit of a kind of a response, particularly if the likes of Courtney Laws will be playing. But again, if Munster can absorb the first 15-20 minutes here and really play the game in the right areas, can't see why not Munster can't secure a bonus point win here. I think the potential is there. I think Graham Rowntree and management will avoid up the team no end, and I think this is a game that really needs a good performance of Munster heading into a very tough festive period, particularly with the Leinster and Ulster fixture. So I'll go Munster, I'll go bonus point here, and I will go probably 7 points here against Northampton Saints. And then the final game at 5:30 is Harlequins Racing 92. Two teams that really do need a win here, Liam, to keep their European hopes alive.
Yeah, and two mercurial talents, I suppose, in Finn Russell and Marcus Smith as well. So that's definitely something that's intriguing for me to see too. But yeah, as you say, look, Harlequins, they were battling, but they ultimately they didn't win by the less than 7 points the last day out against the Sharks. Then we had a horror show, of course, from Racing 92. I think again, this is crazy as it might seem, but I mean, Harlequins well capable of getting the win in style, and again, Racing pretty much like cast out after 2 games essentially.
So you're tipping Harlequins here, Liam?
I am, and as I said, the potentially Racing to be gone from Europe this season after that.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a massive, massive shock in European Cup rugby if that is the case. But again, Liam, look at the tail of the tape last weekend. It was a horror show. I don't know who's more impacted by the travel arrangements here. Was it Racing 92 or Leinster Rugby? I mean, granted, Racing 92 travelled from Paris all the way up North France to Le Havre. Never turned up, in terms of...
The thing is, I mean, the French teams are notoriously bad at travel, even for away French fixtures. So for them to go to Le Havre, honestly, they may have been going to fucking Brussels, it would have been the same thing, really,
Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm Googling here, like, Paris to Le Havre. Bear with me here, podcast viewers. It's 200 kilometres jaunt from Paris to Le Havre. So, I mean, it wasn't as if they picked kind of a nice, ideal kind of area here. They didn't even pick Cannes or Rennes or something like that. So I think from that perspective, it was a horror show. Let's cut to the chase here. Leinster were very good, excellent in their ball in hand, front five on the front foot. But look at the penalty count. Look at the indiscipline here from Racing 92. Their pack had no answers. And when Racing 92 and their pack goes backwards, it's curtains for Racing 92, regardless of how talented a backline or Finn Russell they have. It just doesn't, this time of year, it's all about pack platform. And I think they do have a bit of a chance here, though, Liam. Harlequins will give you opportunities to score. They're very expansive, but they do give you opportunities. So I think it'll be topsy-turvy. I think there's a bonus point here each for both Racing 92 and Harlequins. I think Harlequins will just shade it. Would not be surprised if Racing 92 did nick it, but I think there's no more than 3-4 points in it, maybe 35-32. Particularly if it's a dry day in the Stoop, I think it's primed to be probably the fixture of the round. So look, it's all very exciting, and I think we'll definitely see a form line here in terms of that for next week anyway. In terms of Connacht, that was a great win for them in terms of Newcastle Falcons, resting an awful lot of marquee players. And they have a quick turnaround on Friday night to play Brive, Liam. There's a bit of a reunion here with the likes of Sammy Arnold and a few others. Do you give Connacht an opportunity here to beat Brive away?
Yeah, look, if we be honest about it, in terms of the Challenge Cup, Connacht would be one of the big names, I suppose, now, essentially. So I think they have a really good chance of going away and notching up their second victory in the season's competition. Yeah, big time, I have to say so.
Yeah, because kind of Brive, it's particularly when you get to Challenge Cup here, Liam, sometimes it can be very kind of topsy-turvy, particularly with the French sides in that competition, what kind of mindset they are in. And for Cardiff Rugby to put 41 points past Brive last Saturday kind of suggests everything for me, that Brive just are not interested in this Challenge Cup competition. Granted, Connacht did rest players, but I think from a Connacht Rugby perspective, it's a massive opportunity for them to get deep into this competition. I think Brive really are not going to offer much. They may put in a few first teamers just to keep themselves ticking over ahead of the 23rd of December fixture against Clermont-Auvergne, and then they have Lyon on New Year's Eve. But I think Brive's priority is firmly on their French domestic form, to be perfectly honest. So I think Connacht have a great chance here, provided that they produce a performance. So I think Connacht, for me, by maybe 5-10 points here. So, and that will be a superb return here for Connacht Rugby going into the new year. Liam, we'll leave it at that anyway. It was a pretty lengthy one in terms of Munster Toulouse analysis. But again, next week we'll have a review, a recap in terms of Champions Cup and also the Challenge Cup, and see who are the winners, who are the losers from the first two rounds, and maybe have a look ahead in terms of URC and some end of year kind of reflections from you, Liam, as the podcast kind of turns one next week. But Liam, sure. Many thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Mark. Okay, good luck.
Thank you for listening to this podcast episode. If you liked what you heard in this podcast, why not subscribe to the Hawkeye Sidekick podcast on either Amazon, Spotify, YouTube or Twitter platforms. You can also follow me at Hawkeye Sidekick on Facebook and Twitter for the latest sporting opinions, articles and reports.